Hi everyone, I'm Josh and welcome to Josh Wright Piano TV. Thanks so much for joining me today. We're going to be addressing a question that I don't think I've ever addressed on this channel. I've probably alluded to it, but I recently got an email that said, how do I teach my first piano lesson? There are so many ways of going about this. I want to keep this simple. So if you're a really experienced teacher and you've developed your own curriculum and you hate my advice, well, so be it. That's fine. But this is for new teachers. Teaching piano, especially for the first time, can be one of the most intimidating endeavors because you don't want to set the student up with failure, with teaching them poor technique or not teaching them enough about musicality or whatever the concept might be. So let's start with a basic method book. One of the tried and true courses that I really like is the Adult Piano Adventures by Nancy and Randall Faber. It's just a 2-book series, and this establishes a really nice foundation for theory, for technique, for performing, and also has a lot of simplified famous pieces in it. So it's not like you're just playing endless amounts of 5-finger patterns that are really boring. You're learning all of these concepts as you go. So that's one of my favorite ways to get started. You might think, how do I tailor it for each student? Just go through the book when you're getting started, and you will tailor it according to what the student struggles with. So assign 1 unit a week. If that's too much, maybe it's a half unit a week or a few pages. Your student comes back and you notice, oh my gosh, their 4th finger and 5th finger tend to collapse at the bottom joint. Well, maybe we're going to, for the next week, focus on keeping those joints more curved so they're not collapsing. Maybe the student has really a hard time with rhythm, or some of them just have a hard time with note reading. So you're going to introduce intervallic reading, so where you're reading like seconds or thirds or fourths or fifths rather than just reading note names, just looking at where the note head is located, but rather teaching them to notice patterns in the spacing of the notes. Each of those concepts are going to be tailored to the student and what they need. So don't be too intimidated when you're first started teaching. You're going to assign them some work. They're going to come back. They're going to play it for you. And you're just going to assess and say, what's not good? What do they need help with? If they're doing great, just reinforce things that they're doing good and maybe give them a little something extra to think about. If they hit everything perfectly with rhythm and their notes and articulation, maybe start to introduce them to concepts like voicing and dynamics and maybe even a little bit of rubato. That's not out of the question when you're first starting with a student. Getting their mind churning with all of these ideas will help them develop at a quicker rate. If you want to have some dedicated theory books, a simple solution is the Keith Snell books. They're laid out by level. They're very self-explanatory, very step-by-step in those books. And if you want some dedicated technique books. If you're teaching little children, you can do things like finger power or a dozen a day. If you're teaching adult students who want a little more standard repertoire, things that I like to start with are the Schmidt preparatory exercises. I have an entire mini course on all of these exercise books, by the way. The Hanon exercises and the Czerny Opus 599 exercises. And those are wonderful books that teach different concepts. So the Schmidt teaches different concepts than the Hanon and the Czerny do, and vice versa. So I hope this can help get you started on the right foot. Just take them through a method book, supplement with some theory and technique, and just go with the flow. You do not have to be a master in your first lesson. I have learned to be a better teacher year after year by learning more myself. Keep practicing as well. As a teacher, do not let yourself lose the skill of playing well yourself. That's something that all of my teachers have set a great example with. They all still performed when I was taking lessons with them, and they have not let that performing muscle atrophy. They definitely kept that up. And I remember Sergei Babayan said, how would you ever have basically the moral authority to teach when you yourself can't do the thing that you're teaching? Now, we all struggle with different concepts. Some of my students play certain concepts or pieces even better than I do, but that's beside the point. It's helping the student progress with their own studies and you as a teacher continuing to progress with your own studies. And it's a beautiful thing to see a student sometimes surpass you in a certain area of technique, like my double thirds, for instance. I've had 3 or 4 students now that play that like a dream, and I'm still, working little things out in my mind with double thirds trills. So if any of you have any questions, my email is josh@joshwrightpiano.com. I wish you all the best in your continued studies and your continued teaching. Have a great week. Good luck in your practice sessions.